Warning. You're about to enter the arena and join the battle to save America with your host, John Parnell.
Good evening, America. This is Battleground Live, the show where we kick ass and we take names and we lock horns with the radical left. We never quit. We never surrender from sea to shining sea and everybody in between. Welcome, Patriots, on this glorious, glorious Savage Wednesday. The chat is hopping and popping. I mean, you all are excited about Savage Rich Baris, and you should be, because one of the smartest guys in the business. We try to have smart guys on this show, and I pride myself about, really trying to bring on people who are smarter than me. In fact, that's what life is all about, surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you. I try to do that. But anyways, folks, thank you all for being here. Savage Rich Baris on deck. It's kind of a freaking crazy packed show for you today. This president has accomplished for this country more in going on 3 days in office than Joe Biden accomplished in 4 years in office. The pace that President Trump is working at is unbelievable. It's staggering to me. The energy that this guy has is completely off the charts. I saw a video. Well, the White House called a lid yesterday. It wasn't a video. It was a photograph of the White House. And it was a lit up photograph of the Oval. And there were Marines still standing guard outside of the Oval Office with the lights on inside. Well, the White House had called a lid, I want to say at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if a Marine is stationed on the outside of the Oval Office, it means that the president is still inside working. And so even though a lid was called, you still had President Trump working on behalf of a grateful nation. We're really, really, really lucky to have this guy. You know how yesterday I started the show talking about this interaction between Peter Doocy and President Trump? Peter Doocy asked him about Joe Biden potentially leaving a letter in the Resolute desk. Trump pulls out the letter and says, "I'm glad that you reminded me about this letter. I might not have seen it for a couple months." Well, now we know the contents of that letter. And it's interesting. I'm very interested in the transition of power. I'm very interested in presidential history. I'm very interested in the history behind things like the Resolute desk and the Oval Office and, the different busts and pictures that hang in the Oval Office. This stuff I'm fascinated by, because it really, if you look back over time and the way that the presidents decorate their office, the letters they write to each other, the furniture they have in the Oval Office, it's quintessential Americana. It's a tapestry. It weaves a pretty deep and awesome tapestry of what it means to be an American and how our country has changed over the years. But the letter says, "Dear President Trump, as I take leave of this sacred office, I wish you and your family all the best in the next 4 years. The American people and people around the world look to this house for steadiness in the inevitable storms of history. And my prayer is that in the coming years will be a time of prosperity, peace, and grace for our nation. May God bless you and guide you as he has blessed and guided our beloved country since our founding. Joe Biden, 1/20/25." Now, we all know that Joe Biden did not write this letter himself. And we also know that, boy, it just seems like a pretty damn thing to say to somebody who just, not 3 months before that was trying to throw this guy in jail for the rest of his life, use the power of the Biden Justice Department to crush his family, steal his business. I mean, honest to God, and I shudder to even think this, but if Joe Biden, God forbid, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris had won, not only would this nation be on, I'm pretty damn sure it wouldn't last for the next 4 years. It would be perilously balanced on a knife's edge, poised to fall into this liberal hellscape dystopian, gender pronoun era is abyss for the next 1,000 years. I mean, that's not hyperbole. I think that everything the Democrats represent is diametrically opposed to what it means to be an American. I think their policies present an existential threat to our country and to the safety and prosperity of Americans all over this country. But Donald Trump would have likely spent the rest of his life behind bars and probably, passed from this earth a poor man. But instead, I think God had a hand in all of this, folks. I really, truly believe that. And I really, truly believe that God, even though maybe President Trump, and I'm not speaking for him, I don't know how he feels about this, but maybe he put President Trump and God in all his wisdom knew that President Trump was the only person that could have withstood what he did for the last, 10 years since he came down that golden escalator. Because the truth is, I don't think there's anybody else that could have withstood it. And I'm not even talking about the mental toughness and the physical wherewithal to bear that hell that they put him through. I'm talking about the financial wherewithal. I mean, you saw how these types of attacks broke somebody like Michael Flynn, who is resolute and as tough as nails and as strong as they come, but he had to sell his house. I mean, he didn't have the billions in the bank that President Trump did, which allowed him to persevere, which again, this is where I come back to. This is why I think God put President Trump right in. People tipping in the live chat. I see, Bulldog. Yes, you can tell it's cold. I'm trying not to sniffle as I do the show. I'm sorry if it's distracting, and it probably is, but it's freaking cold. It's like 12 degrees outside right now. I woke up, it was negative 15. I mean, it's cold. I mean, we're out of pellet stoves after the bag of pellets, out of pellets for our stove. After this bag runs out, got to run down to Tractor Supply and grab some new ones. But yes, it gets cold in here. So thank you, Bulldog Patriot, for the Rumble Rant tip. Yes, I maybe we'll use some of the studio funds for pellets because it's in the basement, right? It's kind of adjacent to the studio. It heats and warms the studio, paying for utilities. So that's kind of a thing, right? That counts. Darius. Thank you, Darius, as well, for my sweater fund. I'm wearing a flannel. I'm trying to stay warm. Again, you all are the best audience in the world. Thank you all. So the Democrats, this is really funny. One of the narratives that the Democrats have been pushing today, they have been cheering all day and bragging all day about the low ratings for the inauguration on television. And what's interesting, the great irony about this is that as I watched that, I thought to myself, well, yeah, of course, the ratings are low for ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. Nobody effing watches those channels anymore because nobody trusts you anymore. So really, the media is essentially cheering on their own demise because they're just that dumb. Meanwhile, on X alone, listen to these numbers about the inauguration. People were live streaming the inauguration on X and independent media platforms. These numbers on X alone are just mind-boggling. 4.8 billion impressions. 4.8 billion with a B impressions and 673 million video views. Not to mention, people watched it over and over and over again, and those views aren't counted in the numbers that I just gave you. So that's a 15% increase in posts as compared to 2021. 4.8 billion impressions, 673 million video views. So yeah, and that doesn't even count Rumble and alternative platforms like YouTube. So yeah, the media is 100% cheering on their own demise. And folks, it cannot come fast enough. Also happened today, coming right off the top rope with all sorts of shit happening with Trump in the White House, is Trump gave Vladimir Putin an ultimatum to end the war in Ukraine or face severe, severe sanctions. I'm not going to read Trump's entire statement, but the gist was basically, I love the Russian people. I don't want to hurt the Russian people, but Vladimir Putin, if you don't end this war in Ukraine, I'm going to sanction the hell out of your country and crush you economically, and which will end up hurting the Russian people. It might even put Vladimir Putin in a very tough spot. meaning that if people just get tired of the economic conditions as they are, they might take things into their own hands. And so I like this move by President Trump. I do. And come part and parcel with this announcement today on Truth Social that he made, he also gave Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who is the special envoy to Ukraine, the task of ending the war between Russia and Ukraine in the next 100 days, which is also pretty amazing when you think about it. So Trump is a peacetime president. Trump is pursuing peace aggressively. He hasn't even been in office for 3 days now. And all of this news that I just told you broke. Zelensky is now on the heels of all of this asking for American troops to keep the peace. And to that, I say not only no, but hell no. Now, if you have been paying attention to this show, I've only been on a little bit over a year, but what I have been saying, and this is exactly what the warmongers, the DC war machine, the uniparty war machine, Democrats and Republicans, doesn't matter, the defense industrial complex, they all know this, but the longer that we invest in Ukraine, the more money, hundreds of billions of dollars we spent there, the more difficult it becomes to extricate ourselves. And the reason is like, well, look at all this money that we invested. We can't possibly leave now, not until victory is had. And what ends up happening is they make these small justifications all along the way, slowly escalating what is a stalemate and what will be a stalemate. They escalated to the point where American troops end up keeping the peace on the ground, and that is absolutely not going to happen. And I find it interesting that on the heels of President Trump calling for peace with Vladimir Putin, threatening to put him in a very difficult spot, giving the task to Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg to bring an end to the war in Ukraine in the next 100 days, that Zelensky comes out and says, actually, we actually need American troops on the ground right now to keep the peace. No, absolutely not. We cannot tolerate American troops on the ground keeping the peace between Ukraine and Russia. They will end up staying there for the next 50 to 100 years. Mark my words. This has to be a line in the sand for President Trump. And that brings me to Pete Hegseth. So in the Senate today, there was a vote on the Senate floor to advance Pete's nomination, to a vote to the full floor for a nomination. So that resolution passed. So now the Senate can vote for Pete, and a simple majority will help him win the day. Now, I have been hearing rumblings that Murkowski and Collins are likely no's on Pete Hegseth, and maybe even McConnell, although I would be very, very surprised by McConnell voting no. I'll tell you about Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, yes, I'm not even going to get into the enigma that is Mitch McConnell. I know most of you probably don't like him, but Mitch McConnell doesn't tip his hand with regards to how he's going to vote ever. So the rumors about him voting no, it's very unlike how he actually operates, how he's voted in the past on these confirmations. So that's a question mark to me, but ultimately we've got JD Vance to break a tie. And here's what else the point that I'm trying to make as well. Fetterman today was the only Democrat to vote to advance his nomination to a full floor vote. You hear what I said? Fetterman is the only Democrat to advance Pete's nomination to a full floor vote in the United States Senate. Do you see the registration numbers coming out of Pennsylvania over the last couple of days? Republicans added another 6,000 registered Republicans, or we actually out-registered Democrats by 6,000 plus total voters. By the time Fetterman's reelection comes around, we might out-register Democrats in this state, thereby functionally making Pennsylvania a red state. Fetterman knows this. I'm not saying that he's going to vote for Pete Hegseth's confirmation. I don't know how he's going to vote. But what I am saying is that if Fetterman wants to survive in the United States Senate, he's got to start racking up Republican and conservative wins. A very easy way for Fetterman to rack up Republican wins is just by simply voting for President Trump's cabinet and turning around and saying to people, to his base, look, like presidents win, Democrat presidents win, we get our cabinet. Republican president wins, they get their cabinet. That's how it goes. In fact, that's been his position all along. It's an easy way to give Republicans a win without compromising the overall Democratic agenda. So keep your eyes on Fetterman. Does this mean that I think that he's a conservative all of a sudden? No, of course I don't. Of course I don't. He will vote in line with the Democrats when it comes to their major policy progressive agenda. He's going to vote with them, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could be wrong about all of this, but my point is keep an eye on John Fetterman, see how he votes. So I've got Savage Rich Baris on deck. I want to get his thoughts on all this, but first let me tell you about a brand new sponsor that we have for the show. I'm very, very excited about it. So make sure you go to their website and check them out and just request the information so they continue to support the show. It's a company called American Alternative Assets. I want to tell you about some of my great friends, and that's the incredible team at American Alternative Assets. I know these patriots, and like the brave men and women I served with in combat, they understand what it means to protect American families. They share our warrior spirit and dedication to this great nation. As someone who has led soldiers on the battlefield, I'm deeply concerned because for the first time in our nation's history, we're spending more on interest payments than on all of our brave men in uniform combined. That is a no bullshit assessment right there. That's insane to me. So that's why I've asked my trusted friends at American Alternative Assets to create a special wealth protection guide for just our listeners here. These are the same people that I trust with my own family's future. And right now they're offering my listeners, listen to this, listeners, viewers, battle crew, they're offering you up to $10,000 in free silver plus a free American-made safe. So I wouldn't recommend them if I didn't believe in them completely. We've had lots of gold companies on this show that I think do right by all of you battle crew, but American Alternative Assets they really want to invest in this show, and it shows. So all you have to do and listen to the website they created. Just visit SeanLovesGold.com. SeanLovesGold.com. Tell them that your friend, me, Sean Parnell, sent you over, and stand with patriots who put America first. So that's SeanLovesGold.com. They got the little information packet there. You go request it. It really helps the show a lot. Okay, so without further ado, I want to bring on Savage Rich. I watched his entire show. Oh, wait, thank you to Bumping Valves. He said, I want to bring Rich on and get his response to this too. He said, bro, I paid Baris decent money for the cussing jar on his live stream. Ask him when I get some profanity-laced tirades. Rich, can we get some profanity-laced tirades for the love of God?
What the fuck? I didn't curse enough? You know what? I was in...
I was in like numbers. It's hot, right off the top rope, man. Just drop it like it's...
Yeah, Randy Savage, that puppy. Look, I was in the numbers today. We were going over the poll, and I get kind of serious with that stuff. But he's right. I didn't go off track at all today, and by the way, my wife always appreciates that. She's like, good, you did good today.
Everybody's saying, love me some F-bombs. Everyone's laughing at you in the live chat.
With me, I hope. With me.
Did I say at you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, they're laughing. Yeah, they're laughing at you because not like, Rich is a loser, looks like a Mennonite pollster. Like he's just dropping F-bombs. Remember your outfit on Monday with your little three-piece outfit?
Well, I pulled a Fetterman.
You could have put Melania's hat on, looked just like an Amish pollster.
That's why I'm wearing the Fetterman today. All right. I couldn't do that 2 days.
Fetterman. I like that. I'm pulling a Fetterman today. I don't
think John's got any Lululemon in his closet, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. You never know. And I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, I think John's going to vote yes on Pete. I hope he does, but I think he is, or at least let me put it this way. After a couple of things I've heard, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, look, he voted to advance his vote. Like every Democrat senator said no. So, and I think there were a couple of like no shows, but he was there. Of the Democrats that showed up, they all said no, except for him. So to me, that is significant. Yeah. You're breaking with your party to advance the vote. And I'll tell you, Pete and John Fetterman met together. Like the Democrats wouldn't meet with Pete. But
I was going to say, not
John Fetterman met with him. John Fetterman met with him.
And he would have met with other Democratic senators. It's not because of Pete that he didn't. This is what the game they play. Massey Hirono, all of them. And it's not just Pete. Pam Bondi tried to meet with numerous
that is
Democratic
so
senators.
true. That is so
they
true.
didn't want to meet with her.
Exactly.
So this is the game they play. And then they act as if, and you know how those one-on-ones go. That's when you really sit down and you talk to people and they see you as a human being, not as a partisan opponent. They see you as a human being. And this is the problem Democrats, they, for all of their name calling and their allegations about political opponents, they dehumanize people, Sean. They dehumanize people. They reduce human beings to partisan opponents on paper. They strip them of their humanity. So when they do the horrible things that they do, it's easier on their conscience, but it doesn't make them any less human. And this is a game that they started. They started this game. And, it's a shame. Like, don't talk to me about unity. Don't talk to me about bringing things together, working together until you start to treat people like human beings.
Rich, I'm so glad you brought this up because it's such a good point. And it talked and really I exposed what I think these false allegations against Pete, this last minute push to derail his floor vote nomination. So let me recap it. Pete's brother's ex-wife. So follow that. Pete's brother's ex-wife, who, by the way, is a crazy Trump-hating liberal, came out and said, well, Pete's wife, I heard Pete's wife was a friend. I mean, it's all complete bullshit. Come to find out today, yesterday I said it was bullshit. Come to find out today that she is working with a hardcore Democratic law firm, right? So there's that, of course, right? And as part of her statement, and this really struck me, she said, I have been assured that making this public statement will ensure that certain senators who are still on the fence will vote against Hegseth's confirmation.
Well, that's a confirmation of what you and I talked about in the very beginning of all of this, which is that this is a show and they use these fake stories to provide political cover for the senators. Nobody actually believes these stories. And it's important everybody knows this. Senator Murkowski, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, they don't believe the stories. They just use them as cover to be political cowards. And it's sad, but that is the reality. And it's again, you want to be nicer toward him. That's not my role. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just am trying to call it how I see it. And frankly, frankly, I don't think they deserve any level of respect until they earn it from the voter. They've been doing this and like stabbing people in the back and ruining people for far too long without any accountability. And I'll tell you this, Sean, anytime I hear a story like this, you know what I always say? Let me see the bank statement. Can I see the bank statement? Because I know there's going to be some payment from a Mark Elias or this one at this law firm. Like, is the game. I hope it was worth whatever they gave her. And no doubt she's going to walk away with a couple nice pieces for her wardrobe, because they always buy them clothes to make them look presentable. They buy them clothes. They write them a check. It's such a disgusting game. And I'll tell you, man, the American public really doesn't want a part in it anymore, in case nobody's noticed. They don't want a part in this anymore. They don't want to hear it.
It's so true. And Rich, to me, so I read this statement, and having gone through this myself, I'm like, well, holy shit. She basically gives her entire motivation right there.
Of course.
I've been assured that making this public statement will get Republicans to not vote for Pete. So right there, that's the motivation. That's the motivation. I didn't say it. You didn't say it. She said it. And then the real question here, though, and I'm telling you, this is everything. And the Senate Republicans, I think they need to investigate this, is who assured this person,
of course,
that Republicans would vote against Pete if she came forward with a false allegation. So if you're the Senate Republicans, you're in the majority, right? And so somebody is going behind your back and undermining, and I'm not saying it's a Republican doing this. Democrats could be doing this, right?
But it likely is a coalition.
It could be, yeah. So who's doing this? Who's saying this? This stuff it's brazenly political. they don't treat people like human beings. In fact, they would be content to destroy Pete's life and his family and walk away and never think of it again, because that's how some of these people think, man.
Yeah, I got to tell you, immediately comes to mind, and I'm not trying to beat on her. Lisa's a dirty player. She is a dirty, dirty actor and has been for years. Sean, she sent elements of her staff. They basically played musical chairs back to Alaska, where she never goes, back to Alaska just so they could lobby and change the law so that she could survive primary challenges. Then she, with bald face says, I have nothing to do with changing to ranked choice voting, when it was in fact two, especially one longtime members of her staff that spearheaded that entire agenda. And then they got it through. Why? Because Lisa knew she could not survive in a normal primary environment. So she had to change the way the damn state conducts elections, all, by the way, in a manner that would throw, and I warned people at the time.
You're talking about the ranked choice voting, and that's the only reason why she continues to win in a primary.
That's it. She would never be able to win without it. And I told people at the time, good faith people who were wondering whether or not to support this, I told them at the time, one, they're going to throw the at-large congressional district to Democrats. So in order to save Lisa, who needs the whole system changed because she's a two-faced betrayer and her voters don't want her, she needs to rely on Democrats in round two to get it through. And in order to keep Lisa's seat, in order for Lisa to keep what she thinks is her seat, you're going to throw the at-large district to Democrats. That happened. Mary Peltola won the race. And then secondly, eventually in the midterm, maybe even shorter, but in the short to midterm, a Democrat's going to wind up representing that state in the U.S. Senate if they don't reverse this. And that's crazy if you think about it, because we're talking about a state that relies on an entire sector that Democrats are against. All right. So they would literally bury their state economically if they ever had a chance to take that Senate seat. And the minute she goes, I wouldn't put it past her to not back the Republican who beats her, but instead to join forces with the Democrats like she did with Karl Rove in 2010 against Joe Miller. And that's how she survived that one. All right. Nobody wins mass write-in campaigns without organization. Sean, come on. Give me a break. Joe stomped her in the primary, and then he goes on to lose after Karl Rove and her friends call Joe and say, GG's, good job. I guess we'll all have to unite together. Even though your team did a great job, we're going to bring in some people to help you because this is the big leagues now. It's a general, and we need to help you out. Those people sabotaged Joe, worked behind his back, and got the Democrats to abandon their own candidate to write in for Lisa Murkowski. And that's how she made it past 2010. So fast forward with Kelly, right? Chewbacca, she has to change the entire state system just to be able to survive. So again, like, she's been doing these dirty, dirty things against her members of her own party for years. It would not shock me if somebody in her office said, you get that story out there, give Lisa cover to vote no, and you got your no vote. I'm telling you, that happened. I'm telling you.
I believe it. I believe it. I hope it happened.
We're going to find out about it.
I hope that it's just the Democrat. I hope that I'm wrong about her. Hopefully she votes for Pete. I mean, I'd be surprised if I really would be legitimately surprised if she did. And hopefully it's the Democrats making these assurances. But here, even if it is the Democrats, the Republicans are the ones in the majority. They're the ones that head up the committees. These Democrats can't make promises to anybody. They certainly can't be promising. They certainly can't be promising that Republicans aren't going to vote for them. You know what I mean? It's like
bottom line. That came from a Republican. I'm sorry. And the likely suspect is Lisa, because it's Susan Collins Susan Collins might vote. Yeah, she might vote for Pete. I mean, I'm telling you, she doesn't. Even if she doesn't act like that. Is what I'm trying to say. She doesn't deal like that. She doesn't operate like that. Okay, I can't give you a single example of Collins doing something like that. Not a single example.
And she underhanded. To be fair, like Collins, like it's actually kind of not. It's not fair. I mean, it is, but it isn't, in terms of like where you're talking about how the state's political makeup. Alaska is a red state. Maine, where Collins represents, is a liberal state, yet somehow she wins it, you know? So like, is it a, I kind of understand why Colin's voting record is the way that it is. I would rather have a Republican who's with us half the time than a Democrat who's never with us.
But nomination votes are not going to cost you your seat. And
Right,
the
right.
case study in that, which I explained to them at the time, was the Kavanaugh vote. I guarantee you, you will not lose because you voted for Justice Kavanaugh. Like, that's not going to happen. All right, you'll lose on a big vote, like say a war resolution, like a state like Maine. You could lose on a vote like that. You could lose on a healthcare vote. Let's say Susan Collins voted against a very popular part of Obamacare, like the protections for pre-existing conditions. That could cost you a seat. I'm not even sure abortion could cost Susan Collins a seat anymore. They tried that. They've been down that road. They really went after her for Kavanaugh, including the abortion industry, who piggybacked on that effort, and it didn't happen. She didn't lead in a single poll, yet she won comfortably. All right, by the way, just so people remember that. That was fun. Democrat led in every poll. In every poll. And then she went on to win handily. It was called in like 25 minutes. Very, very quick resolution to the race. You're not going to lose because you voted to confirm Pete Hegseth. And by the way, you wouldn't lose because you voted to confirm Tulsi Gabbard or RFK. Like, people don't vote on this. The president has won. The majority of the American public believes the president is entitled to get the cabinet that he has chosen. Look at all the votes for insane people under both Obama and Biden. You got a Supreme Court justice who made her way through the process, no problem, even though she couldn't define a man or a woman. Yeah. All right. Lloyd Austin doesn't believe in civilian control of the military, something that should terrify everybody, and could, if you made a political campaign about it, it could do real damage, and yet that hurt nobody.
What the hell's the name of the dude from Pennsylvania who is our health guy? Is a dude that pretends to be a woman. He's like the undersecretary for health.
The last name is Levine, but
Richard Levine. Richard Levine.
I'm not going to play the game by dead naming or saying the name that they prefer today. Like, you were born what you were born. And I told people today on the show, I'm dropping the entire concept of gender in demographics. I'm a pollster. I'm not a therapist. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a left-wing therapist. We have no data on gender. It's a fabricated term. It is a sex, and the census has never studied how many people are deluded and think they're another sex when they're not. We only know how many men there are and how many women there are. And that is a sex assigned to you at birth. There are, of course, very legitimate cases of intersex people, obviously, but it is so minuscule. I mean, the Census Department doesn't get into it. There's no way for these pollsters. They're just doing it for political expedience. They're doing it so they could be like in the cool club, bro, in the cool political club. Oh, look at me over, and I can shame some people. Look at me over at Monmouth. I now include binary. I'm so progressive. I'm so liberal. How the hell do you know how many people are binary in this country? There's no data on it. What are you talking about? How do you know whether or not your weights for sex is appropriate or incorrect? You don't know. We have nothing to go on. The only thing we have to go on is the voter file, which is male, female, and the census, which is male, female. We have honestly, Sean, this is, we got to stop these basic, the way they control the way we speak and the terms we use, because that's how it all spirals into, descends into different levels of craziness. Yeah. I'm not doing it.
Well, giving Thune some credit, Thune basically said, hey, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We're having votes. So I think you can anticipate a vote for Pete Hegseth probably Thursday at the earliest. Friday night, at the Friday night maybe. But then Thune could very likely keep them over the weekend to keep voting. And I think he will. So far, Thune has been, as we talked about on Monday, pretty damn awesome.
You got to recognize it.
I want to talk about in a second, Rich, Trump going at warp speed. Oh, not warp speed. He's just working at a feverish pace right now.
Trump speed. That's what the chat said in Rumble today.
Yeah, he's working at Trump speed. Well, let me do a quick read and then I'll bring you back. Okay.
Sounds good, brother. I'm here.
All right. Stay there. Just be vaping. We'll be right back with
Always,
Savage. Okay. Did you know that no U.S. president has ever been a vegetarian while in office? That's right. Delicious, high-quality meat has always been a part of the presidential diet. At Good Ranchers, we want to bring that presidential level quality to your table. When you subscribe to any of our boxes, you'll get free ground beef, salmon, or chicken breast for an entire year, because everyone deserves to make history at their dinner table. If you subscribe to any Good Ranchers box, we'll give you free chicken, salmon, or ground beef with every order for an entire year, which is pretty awesome. So whether you're trying to eat healthier, enjoy more moments with family, or spend less money on going out to eat, goodranchers.com, that's /VNN. So goodranchers.com /VNN is here to help you turn all of your resolutions into solutions. When you buy your meat from Good Ranchers, you're directly supporting local farms and ranches in the U.S. while skipping imported meat and the hassle of grocery store shopping. During Good Ranchers' New Year's meat special, you can subscribe to any box of their high quality, 100% American meat, wild-caught seafood. All you have to do, use the promo code VNN. You'll get $25 off, free express shipping, and your choice of free ground beef, chicken, or salmon in every order delivered for an entire year. So start 2025 with better choices, better meals, and better moments at home. Remember to visit goodranchers.com /VNN. Use the promo code VNN today for American meat delivered. Also, quick shout out to Todd. Said, for my schnapps fun. Todd, do you think that I drink schnapps? First of all, thank you for the Rumble Rant tip, but I am more of a vodka guy. I've progressed from beer and gone to whiskey and now graduated to full vodka. So, but thank you, Todd, for the Rumble Rant tip. Everyone, make sure you smash that like button, the little gray button beneath the video. You smash it, it turns green. It helps us make the leaderboard. We make it all the time, and that's primarily because of you, Battle Crew. So thank you. Okay, I want to bring back Savage Rich Baris, who's the director of Big Data Poll and host of Inside the Number, also the most accurate pollster of 2024. So what do you make of this Trump progressing at Trump force speed, as you call it, like today? So today, just like a quick synopsis, he ordered the Department of Defense to prioritize homeland defense, and he's deploying immediately 1,500 active duty troops from NORTHCOM to the border, with tens of thousands of more to follow. He placed DEI staff across every American institution on paid leave. He pardoned Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah.
And a total comms blackout for the CDC and NIH. A guy just doesn't stop, Rich. Like, this guy is on fire, is he not?
Yeah, I will say this one first and foremost. Some of these actions, they had to be taken, right? So, and they had to be taken immediately. Reinstate remain in Mexico, okay, and catch and release. Declare a national state of emergency. So he took about five, those are three, but he took about 5 actions, including the sending of the redeployment of troops to the southern border. This will work. All right. I mean, that's the fantastic thing, that we could all just sit here and I don't want to say like you never take your eye off the ball, but I am saying like that's one thing already that he needed to address, and it needed to be fixed. It was a major issue during the campaign. He could not rest on it. But then again, like that in and of itself is like so much for an incoming president. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's just so much more going on. Obama. Biden did come in. If you guys don't remember, I'll remind you. He came in on his first day and he started to dismantle everything Trump did immediately with executive orders. He didn't even know what he was signing. It was the saddest thing you could watch. He was like, what's this do? And they were like, don't worry about it. Just sign it.
It's true. Because remember Mike Johnson saying he didn't even know he signed, like,
he had no idea.
He didn't even know what he was signing. Said he didn't sign an offshore drilling ban when he did. Something having to do with energy. I can't remember, but yeah, he's Biden's wasn't.
He had
there.
No idea. The audio was there. I mean, the media caught it at first and then, began to try to like stop playing that clip, but he had no clue. But The staff did, and they started immediately dismantling stuff that Trump had done just to be the anti-Trump, even though those policies were effective, and especially on the border. But it was such a big issue during the campaign. He recognized during his speech the non-white voters are voted for him. He said, I heard you. I cannot tell you how many times did I come on your show and, with the voices fresh in my mind from Hispanic and Black voters, Black mothers, what about me, my child's schools being used as a squatting zone for illegal aliens. Nobody cares about us. We've been loyal Democratic voters for decades and they are shitting on us, so Trump needed to do this for them, like if you, it was that important, and then moving on, I got to tell you, I mean, from immigration, the headlines with Putin is just so big because people expected Trump to.
I talked about this at my lead, and I meant to ask you about it. I'm glad you're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, people expected him to do things with foreign policy, get hostages back, stabilize the Middle East. There were so many interviews that I remember before the election, people saying Putin would never have invaded if Donald Trump was president. The Abraham Agreement, maybe they didn't know what it was called, but Donald Trump had a peace deal in the Middle East. What the hell happened? So him doing this is going to send a message to voters that, what, this is why you voted for me. I'm doing it. Things are getting back on track. We're going to get stability abroad. We're going to get prosperity at home. He needs to send that message, and immigration just had to be prioritized. It had to be in those first couple rounds. The pardons are a little bit more controversial. Ross Ulbricht, I would just tell you guys this. The man is now the target of an unfair political persecution. Once that happens to you, it changes your view. It doesn't matter if Ross was an accomplished drug dealer and potential murderer. The fact of the matter is, where the hell is where's the John Adams in you? Okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not he's a good man or a bad man. If the system was corrupted when it targeted him and prosecuted him,
no doubt about it. I mean, the sentence of 2 consecutive life sentences, that's effing insane.
Meanwhile, why do you think we have politicians flipping their shit that he designated cartels terrorist organization? Well, because now we have a bunch of politicians who deal with terrorist organizations. That's why. And this guy's sitting rotting in jail. Yeah. For, depending, it doesn't matter what you think is fair or unfair as far as the actual charges against him or whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. It's how they carried it out. And the sentence that was imposed on him is just insane.
So you want to see this? You want to see this crazy
there are
thread?
Worse criminals in Congress right now, Sean.
Look at this, Rich. So I stumbled across this thread today about the pardons, and because the Dems are freaking out about so listen to this. I'm just going to go through this for people. In 1954, members of the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party shot 5 congressmen during an immigration debate on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. Listen to this for the folks who are just listening. Jimmy Carter commuted their lifetime prison sentences in 1979. But there's more. Listen to this. These convictions prompted a Puerto Rican nationalist bombing campaign. Bill Clinton pardoned most of the perpetrators in 1999, but was rejected by Oscar Lopez Rivera. Rivera received a second pardon from Barack Obama and a personal performance of Hamilton in his honor. But it gets worse. In 1971, the Weather Underground detonated a bomb in a bathroom below the U.S. Senate to protest American military operations in Laos. Nobody was ever arrested for the act, and Bill Ayers, one of the ringleaders, went on to become a close friend and mentor to Barack Obama. But wait,
I don't regret setting bombs, that quote said.
It gets worse. It gets worse. And so Ayers and his wife, Bernadine Dorn, another Weather Underground leader, both became university professors, and Ayers got a taxpayer-funded position at the University of Illinois. Mention of Ayers' ties to Obama during the 2008 presidential campaign were denounced as racist. Listen to this. So Ayers and Dorn also raised former San Francisco DA Chelsea Boudin, son of weatherman David Gilbert and Kathy Boudin, who'd been convicted of murdering 3 people during a robbery. Andrew Cuomo commuted Gilbert's sentence in 2021. Boudin became a professor at Columbia. And listen to this. In 1983, the Weathermen affiliates involved in the Boudin killings again bombed the U.S. Senate. Look at this picture right here. Bombed the U.S. Senate as well as several other government buildings in protest of American military actions in Lebanon and Grenada. Bill Clinton pardoned these perpetrators on his last day in office. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And here's the last. One of the perpetrators, Susan Rosenberg, went on to become a professional activist. She joined the board of Black Lives Matter, a charity, and obtained taxpayer-funded pension at the City University of New York. But yeah, it's the January 6ers that are the problem. Give me a break. And what's crazy is that how, like, right-wing extremism, my ass. Like, these are all Democrat presidents pardoning the most violent left-wing extremists who were bombing the U.S. Senate building, yet crickets from the national media and an uproar over President Trump pardoning who clearly people who were targeted by Biden's Department of Justice and the FBI, grandmas who walked through the Capitol. I mean, it's just sickening to me. It's sickening.
My followers, people who watch Inside the Numbers, they know that story, especially the 1983 bombing, because we were talking about it in context of Biden and other Democrats phrasing J6 protest as the worst attack on our Capitol since the Civil War. Okay. And I'm like, what are these people talking about? A left-wing nutcase group bombed the Senate building. They also pinned a congressman in the stairwell and shot him to death. Nobody did that on January 6th. Nothing like that happened. The only person who was killed was Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran who was unarmed and shot by a Capitol Hill police officer who had no business holding a firearm. I mean, nothing ever like that occurred on J6. And by the way, again, with the Republican bashing, which I'm going to engage in right now, so they have minimal criticisms for when the Bidens and the Obamas issued pardons the way they did. You know, they didn't threaten to withhold a Senate confirmation. They didn't threaten to oppose a Senate confirmation over any of this. All right. But, Lisa Murkowski's deeply disturbed by the blanket pardons of J6ers. Nobody bombed the Senate building. Okay. And then there's countless murderers pardoned by Barack Obama, cop killers. There's the Jamaican woman who was on the run for years until she was caught. She was a cop killer, her and her man. The list goes on and on. I mean, Bill Clinton's pardons were awful. They were disgusting. And now we have Biden's pardons, which he obviously pardoned a guy who was responsible for gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute in China that obviously led to the development of COVID-19. How do we know? Obviously, Rand Paul was correct, and that led to the death of millions of people. Why? Why? To unseat a sitting president they didn't like? I don't know. Who knows? But all that blood's on their hands, and they're concerned about Pete Hegseth leading the Department of Defense. I mean, it's so ludicrous. If you put it in perspective, it's so ludicrous. It's why I just say everything's a show. It's such a show. I mean, I'm so glad that you brought that up because, until I brought that, especially the 1983 bombing, until I brought that up on my show, nobody had heard about it. Nobody. And it's always when and they're not even like protests. I mean, they're like clear acts of political violence, clear acts of political violence is terrorism, clear acts of terrorism, domestic terrorism. And they treated it like it was nothing, like it was just some fringe group or something. Meanwhile, 20 years later, a soon-to-be former president launches his campaign for U.S. Senate in one of their living rooms. That's where Barack Obama announced he was running for the U.S. Senate.
I know.
It was in Bourne's living room, brother. Come on. It's just it's ridiculous.
I think we're pretty close to setting a viewership record. I think we have over 5,300 people watching, Rich. That's kind of amazing for the show, and it's really a testament to you. And people love coming.
Holy shit for the tip jar.
You're 100% right, and that's why I was grateful to see Speaker Johnson come out and say, "Okay, we're investigating all these J6 committee pardons. We're investigating the Biden crime family syndicate pardons." Like, I think there's a question as to whether or not if Biden doesn't have the cognitive wherewithal to stand trial, then how could he as found by Robert Hur, by the way, special counsel
Yes.
Robert Hur. He's too feeble-minded to stand trial. Then how is he granting and commuting over 8,000 sentences, pardoning over 8,000 people if he's not of sound mind? There's got to be something to that.
As soon as I heard of the Fauci pardon, which I know sent everybody to the moon,
and rightfully so, right?
Laura and I, I was like, well, let me call Will. Let me ask Will, because that's a very good. Laura actually came up with it first. She's like, I don't understand something, because neither one of us are lawyers. But how if this man wasn't competent enough to run for president anymore?
Right.
His own vice president was going to use the 25th Amendment on him.
Right.
How is it possible that these are credible or legal pardons if the man is not in sound mind and body? So
I don't know.
Laura made such a fantastic point that I was like, let me call Will Scharf, who, for the people who don't know, was Trump's lawyer. And actually, as I found out, I did not know, but he was standing next to the president, getting him to sign these executive orders. Like,
and I think he's actually in the White House with President Trump now. He's like his chief counsel with the White House.
Yeah,
like that,
and
right?
I actually didn't know when I did that, and I'm like, Will, hey man, you got a second? Like, let me ask you a question. And he was like, honestly, we just have no precedent for that. But it would have to be, whether it's like however you do it, but it would have to be 25th Amendment related. And that was like more to the point. His vice president threatened to use the 25th Amendment on him if he did not step down and give her the nomination. I mean, that is the turn of events that transpired, folks. He did not have this long talk with Jill and decide, I'm going to step down and do the right thing. That's not what happened. That weekend, they brought the polling back. Harris said, if you don't step down, I'm going to 25th Amendment your ass, and I have X number of people who are going to side with me. Do you really want to go down this path, or are you just going to step aside? That's what happened. And I don't understand how Laura's not correct. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know how Laura's not making the correct point here. If he was not competent enough to run for president anymore, and how is he in sound mind and body and able to issue legal pardons with a scope of which is unheard of? I mean, the scope of these pardons is evidence in and of itself. Like, there's somebody crazy writing these pardons. Like, nobody writes a pardon with this kind of a scope, folks. I mean, his sons alone was unprecedented. Even left-wing legal scholars were like, nobody has ever issued a pardon on, with such wide ranging, covering such wide ranging time periods and events and potential scenarios. Like, you just don't get a pardon blanket like that. That doesn't happen. We keep hearing the term blanket, but blanket was just because he pardoned so many J6ers. It wasn't the scope of what they did. The scope is very clear, actually, in his pardons. It's Biden who just wrote these like blank pardon checks, brother. I mean, everything I ever got my son to do illegally for me is now forgiven. It's crazy.
Well, what do you make of this? Like, just shifting gears just a little bit, what do you make of this insane Episcopalian, like clearly whack job liberal bishop who is at it's like a tradition that's gone back as far as FDR, I think the inaugural prayer mass. And she's up there saying just the most insane shit in the world about LGBTQ kids and immigrants, and then makes this goes off on this tirade that if we deport immigrants, we won't have our serfs to do our farming and clean our homes. I mean, just like insanely racist stuff. It's amazing. These liberals are they're all just insane racists at heart. I mean, that's how they view the world.
My God. Absolutely.
And there she is standing in the Washington Cathedral. I mean, I just thought it was so classless, Rich. I thought it was like you basically commandeered a tradition that went all the way back to FDR and made it about some bullshit politics while simultaneously advocating for the surgical mutilation of young kids, while simultaneously saying, and neglecting and blowing off the millions upon millions of Americans who've been affected by this illegal invasion on so many levels. I mean, obviously, Lake and Riley's family has suffered a horrific loss, and there are thousands other of families in that position, and also the unbelievable economic detriment that these illegal aliens bring to the country, and that it's just like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then to make matters worse, she's out there saying, "Oh, I would do it for unity." It was about unity. But now she's making the media rounds on CNN and The View, like basically lambasting President Trump. I mean, this is insane to me. What do you think about all that?
Well, first and foremost, she's a narcissist. I mean, that's you have to be to make something like a moment like that about you and what you want it to be. I mean, you have to be a narcissist to do something like that. Very different, because immediately I have this nutcase liberal in my family, and immediately she's like, What about when Ben Carson did what he did at the prayer breakfast? And I'm like, are we seriously comparing Obamacare to the advocacy of mutilating children? Like, what are you talking about? Like, in any event, look at someone trying to get a spotlight on them. And I feel like, I don't know, what the hell was she doing there? I mean, that immediately, it was like my first thought, how does anyone like that slip through the cracks? How does anybody like that slip through the cracks? I mean, all of the preparation stuff like that goes into these days and these events. How did that one get through? And by the way, look at how she started off, which tells you it was like very much planned and very much made to be a charade. She was going for like maximum shock factor. And this is,
you see JD Vance look at his wife. He's just like,
it was like, what on earth?
Like, come on, lady. Oh my God. It was crazy.
He looked at his wife basically the same way I looked at mine when we were listening to it.
Yeah.
I was like, and
kudos to his wife.
Am I hearing this?
His wife just straight poker face, just like,
but like, it takes you a second. You're like, looking at your wife, like, am I hearing this? Like, you hear this too, right? Like, it's, man, we have a sickness in this country. We really do. But honestly, I don't think that the motivation was any of those issues that she raised, more so than it was just her own self-aggrandizement. And, I mean, we have a real problem with narcissism in this country. And I mean, think about the level of like self-centeredness it takes to pull a stunt like that, so you don't give a damn about the country, anybody who's listening, how it may affect the church, right?
Like
the Lord,
God. I mean,
God, minimal consideration. Sean.
I just think it's like insane. I don't even know.
That's self-centered on a whole new level, my friend.
It is. Okay, so what is? Give us a sense of where people can find you, and what are you all doing this weekend at the Baris residence?
We had a snow day today, which was amazing. But it does look like, I don't know, for the rest of this week, we're gonna have to dissect this poll, that I did. And we're actually going to look at some of the executive orders that we had talked about. We kind of pulled them as we were able to add them. I mean, like you said, he was moving so quickly. So it turned into a poll that was supposed to just be about what's his approval rating, his favorability rating, where are people at on the issues. And I got to tell you, Sean, we didn't even get a chance to talk about it, but we do the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. So I have to put that together and go over that with people. I'm probably going to do it tomorrow for locals, because when Trump handed Biden the reins, he was able to hold on to a little bit of economic confidence, and it just fell. And we have not seen levels like this since Trump was president and was on his way out. The inflation-related indicator of this index is now at the highest level it's ever been, even though the current conditions element to it, like how do you feel about your own income now, is in the doldrums. But when we asked them, how do you think it's going to be 6 months from now, like it's called a 6-month outlook, it's through the roof. So there's that we have to talk about. There's so much, man, so much. I mean, his majority approval rating is this?
Tell us a little bit about the poll. I mean, we talked about so much. The hour went by like this. Tell us a little bit about the poll. Like, what were the top line numbers?
So the top line numbers are 55% over a little bit, 55% and change approval, and only 38% disapproval.
That's insane.
I mean, it's insane. I've never have ever seen numbers like, even during the pandemic when Trump had like an inflated, or I called it fake at the time, people were just reacting, and a lot of media polls also, I think, inflated his approval. But you could see that people were finally saying, oh, no, I do have a majority approval of him, and he would get to 50 or 52. Our high was only 52 and change. So he has now surpassed any approval we have ever measured for him. But again, the flip side of that, which I think is even more interesting, is that level of disapproval is the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
The intensity of it is very favorable, meaning you only have like 19% who strongly disapprove.
And all these pollsters on these national networks are stealing what you said for the whole year. And that your point has always been like, yeah, I mean, well, the media has lost all sorts of power and authority because they just lie all the time. And the American people don't trust them, but also the American people are supporting what Trump is doing. So
Yes,
all of this propaganda that the media is going, oh, look at this. The Trump administration is targeting, illegal aliens who've committed no crimes that work on this farm. First of all, if you're an illegal alien,
you're a criminal.
You're a criminal for coming here. So let's like that notwithstanding. But people don't care. They want this. They want to stop legal immigration.
I was just going to say that.
Like, it's not even just illegal immigration. They just are over it.
That's right. I mean, and that's why, again, I would say this with the Hegseth nomination, the American public believes that President Trump's agenda is the agenda that is better for this country. They also believe that he knows exactly who he needs to help him carry out that agenda. Absolutely. They trust him to make those judgments. And if you're a Republican and you voted not just against Pete, but anyone that he has nominated, you are not only hurting your party, but you are actually, they will see you as someone who is hurting the country for your own tiny personal motivations. And that's not going to work anymore. Like, you're not going to, I don't know if you don't get what time it is, but believe me, you will not be able to go on with business as usual, the way that you're used to it. People aren't going to forget. It's not going to die down, Sean. It won't die down until people see results and accountability. That's what I think a lot of these people don't understand. And, if you're willing to, for the sake of the military industrial complex, hurt your party and hurt your country like that, then you don't really deserve to be there anymore. And you'll have to pay a consequence for it. And you will. So the American public does support it, and they got to get it. They got to get on board.
I think so too. I really do. You said, people don't vote on confirmation. I think if Republicans are voting no, they're going to be held.
Primary voters do. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I meant like in a general election.
In a general, yeah.
So they're not going to be able to hurt Susan Collins by saying she voted for Pete Hegseth. Like, they tried that with Justice Kavanaugh. It just didn't work, man. Nobody cared. They knew who Susan was, and they know why they keep sending her back to DC, and they sent her back easily, comfortably. I just don't know how this is a vote that helps anyone but the military industrial complex, who we do know pays their bills, but it doesn't matter. If you can't pick up the phone and tell them that this vote's going to do me in, then you're an ineffective senator. So there has to be a point where you tell them, look, I get it. I hear you loud and clear, but I won't survive if I cast this vote. So you're just going to have to accept this guy, and we'll move forward, and that's it. And that's really what it comes down to. They don't get to decide who the president wants.
It's a Trump mandate. It's not whatever random U.S. senator's mandate. So what else do you find in your poll? I mean, the favorable, that is insane. What else did you find?
J.D. Vance is back to positive and positive. I mean, we still have a lot of people who say, I don't know. But, he was positive when he was first nominated, and then they came out with the weird stuff and they attacked him constantly. And that drove it negative for a little bit. And then we could see it inching back to positivity. And he is, in fact, positive. We started looking at John Thune, too. A lot of people just don't know enough about him yet. Trump's favorability is just about as high as his approval rating, which is very different from the first Trump administration. People liked his policies and they liked how he handled stuff, but they didn't like him. Not like this. And the fact that they're almost completely overlapped, it's like 55-38, 54-37, like it's almost identical, tells me that it's not just that they're supporting his policy. They like him. Like approval among Hispanics is in the 50s. I mean,
that's insane.
It's crazy, guys. Oh, and young voters, Young voters, I know we got to go, but I'll
No,
give you this.
I listen, you come on
This
this
is
show. We
crazy.
love you here. We want to hear your polls. Like, even if we go a little over, it's okay.
Over 70% of the country think that he is absolutely going to handle illegal immigration. That's the first issue that we started to look at, because we're asking people, how confident are you that Trump is going to address these things, handle these things? We gave them all these issues. Immigration and border security was certainly his strongest one. And it's, if you count those who say I have some confidence, which is not a lot, it's just added, but if you count them, you're looking at like 70%. If you count just the people who say that they're certain or have quite a lot of confidence, right, you're looking at just under 60%. So, I mean, these huge numbers that think that he's going to make their lives better. He's going to address these issues. And if you look at 18 to 29-year-old Sean, 27% strongly approve, 27% somewhat approve. 18 to 29, that's 54%, ladies and gentlemen. That's insane. That's crazy. And it's equally strong if you break it down by 18 to 24 to 25 to 29. There's no real statistical difference in how much they approve of him. It's like equally strong among those groups. White, and you brought this up before, the white limousine liberal is the most anti-Trump, but also, like you said, they're actually the most racist one, holds these like most racist views, these insane views. When I was growing up in the mid-Atlantic, New York, New Jersey, you have these elitist, upper crusts. It was always known that limousine liberals were actually the most, like they want illegal immigration, not because they believe in the American dream, because they want Juanita to fold their clothes. They think of them as servants, like that's the way it has always been. And you can actually see it. What's left of the Trump resistance is this white limousine liberal, like that's where it really is. And they tend to be older, which is a bigger disaster for Democrats. Like, they are really in the wilderness here. If you look at by age, the strongest opposition to Trump is old and white and educated. And it's like the past. You understand what I'm saying?
The Democrats they are out of ideas. They are regressive and they are out of ideas, and they're largely seen as leaderless, as I've said, they're in big trouble, man. Big trouble.
Yeah, they'll need a leader. Like, sometimes the best thing to happen to a party that loses is to lose badly so they could be rebuilt. But look what it took because Republicans were in a similar position after Romney lost. But I don't think the same is possible for Democrats yet, because Trump came along and he was against everything, the party's establishment. Like, Democrats, they're not built this way. So it would have to be someone who comes along and challenges the whole entire status quo. If they do, they have no chance. The Republican establishment was weak. The Democrat establishment isn't ever going to be weak like that, because at least it'll always be centralized, but they're broke because nobody wants to give them money. Democratic donors they are pissed. They are so mad. There's an article about a bundler that I knew if this was happening anyway, but she was in the Hill the other day. She's raising money for Donald Trump. I mean, there's no, like, the structure is bankrupt. And then they're like establishment as a structure is bankrupt, but also, like you said, they're leaderless and they're like intellectually bankrupt. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to go. And the longer they stay that way, the more ineffective they'll be to oppose Trump. So, that's a good thing if you're a Trump supporter.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Savage Rich, tell us all where we can find you, how we can support you, my friend.
Best place always on Locals, folks. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. Thanks, brother.
All right. See you next week, Rich. Thanks,
all
brother.
The best.
That's Savage Rich Baris, the best in the business. Make sure you subscribe to him on Locals. Follow his show, People's Pundit. He's the best. We got to support independent content creators. Also, smash that little gray button beneath the video, the like button down there. Smash it, turn it green. Help us get on the leaderboard. We make it every day, primarily because of you. Okay, let's get to this. We've all seen the headline. Cyber attacks on our power grids, drones in the sky, violent attacks on everyday Americans. The truth is, no leader, no system can protect you from everything. The last thing I want is to be standing in line depending on help that might not ever come. And when crisis hits, food is always the first casualty. Everyone needs it, and panic buying makes things worse. That's why I've made sure my family is prepared with My Patriot Supply. Their 4-week emergency food kit gives you the nutrition you need to stay strong in a crisis. 2,000 calories per day and 100% of your daily value of 12 essential vitamins and minerals. This kit keeps you going when every meal matters. So right now they're offering $50 off their 4-week emergency food kit. Just go to preparewithvnn.com right now to grab yours. Don't put this off. Now is the time to prepare. That is preparewithvnn.com to get your 4-week food kit today. Folks, that is it for Battleground Live. I think we hit a new viewership record. I mean, this is crazy. Almost 6,000 live viewers here on Battleground Live. It's kind of amazing that just a little bit over a year ago, I was trying to set a goal for 500 live viewers in December of last year. Here we are, 6,000 live viewers. I'm going to send a quick shout out to Glow. She says, thank you, Sean, for your P.O. Box fund. Please get a box. You really need one. Yes, I will get a P.O. Box, Glow. Thank you for the Rumble Rant tip. Bulldog Patriot says, 5,400 watching. Let's celebrate by everyone tipping a buck. I'll start. Thank you for that, Bulldog Patriot. You are the best. Yes, Salty Mama says $5 for 5,000. Congrats. Thank you very, very much. You are the best. Myron, one of the OG members of the Battle Crew. Let's hear it for Sean and Savage, calling it like it is. As always, folks, thank you for the Rumble Rant tips. Seriously, thank you for that. 100% of what we get on this show gets invested right back into the show. That's my pledge to you. We can't do the show without you. So we're all, kind of build this show together. I'm not going to say we're all in this together because that's the propaganda line that they use to lock us down. And I can't do that. But this show is about building a community intent on saving this country. We did that in 2024, and that movement is growing in 2025. As always, folks, God bless you all. See you tomorrow night. We still got an amazing show tomorrow night. Brian Dean Wright on Friday night. So right night, right around the corner. But as always, God bless you all. And God bless this amazing country that we call home. Take care. Good night, Battle Crew. And I will see you tomorrow.